Welcome to another episode of Advancing Consciousness Podcast. And today we're going to look at why are we here and why now? Now that's a two-parter because the first part is why are we here and why, or in this case, why now? And then the second part of it, why are we where we are now in this situation, current events and so forth, and why now? So we're going to look at both. So stay tuned at this time. So welcome everybody, and we get to play together again today. And as we continue to play with these beautiful Advancing Consciousness podcasts, we continue to expand and increase your essence and knowing that you have within you, bringing it up more to the surface. So we're going to look at why are we here and why now. So let's look at it the personal point of view first. So why are you here? I mean, we had choices to be anywhere pretty well. At the same time, not only are we anywhere, why now? Like, why are we here now? Planet Earth has been here for a very long time. We have gone through many changes. And yes, this is the most current retooling, I guess you want to call it, and seeding that we're experiencing. And that was established about 15,000 years ago. But over the 15,000 years, there was one phase that we went through for the first 5,000 years, which everything was very organic. And then we did 10,000 years of non-organic, which everything was in reverse. And right now we're kind of shifting away from that and restoring it back to the organic state. And, even though all the stuff that's been put in place, we're still doing the process within ourselves and to also reflect it in the playground. But when it comes to you, why are you here and why now? Well, we have to understand that we have free reign, free choice at any point in time to take on a body or not, and where. Like, for example, here we are on planet Earth. How many planets there is? Well, active planets, just in the quadrant that planet Earth is sitting in, there's over 400 of them. And out of these 400, which planets are basically playgrounds, and each one has a different matrix, each one has a different experience and different physicalities. And then, of course, they're all on different dimensional states of consciousness and creating and expressing and experience itself in those different states of consciousness. And then we look at planet Earth and you're saying, well, why this one? Why did we choose to come here? Well, there's a few reasons for that. Some of the reasons is that many of us wanted to come here to experience the uniqueness that planet Earth had to offer. And that was the first part. The second part is that because it's so quite different and many of the souls have never been here, it was something worth to experience. Plus the fact that how it was tooled was kind of unique in the sense of the extremes that can be experienced. However, there are many other souls that have come here and said, okay, listen, I want to go there and I want to, experience that life, go through it. But I also want to bring enough with me that I will become a contributor to the changes because it'd been outlined for a while, especially the souls that are on the planet right now, knew all in advance that we were going to go through this transformation. And it was pretty well pinpointed to a point where it wasn't that far apart that you can miss out on the opportunity. Now, of course, as you know, since it started to go through this transitional period, there have been many souls that have come and many souls that have left. Now, the ones that have left, had whatever experience they wanted and they figured, okay, I'm not in for the rest of the ride, and they left. Other ones that came in afterwards said, hey, I want to be part of the ride. Some came a little earlier so that they can experience the different parts of it. Because look at it this way. If you arrived here 86 and before, pretty well, you were in one very deeper state of the phase before the shifting started to occur. Because the shifting, the transformation that did not start until the end of 86, really going into 1987. And that was the first phase. Now, that was done gradually. And what changed? It changed a lot of our operating systems. It let us let go of some of the confines that we had taken on, but the planet was being upgraded. The frequency was being upgraded. So the frequency of the planet, the spectrum of light coming from the sun started to change. The action, interaction, and the flow of energy coming from the galaxy started to increase. The participation from all the planets that are in our solar system became more online with us, and we started to reconnect again to what the original design was. And what I meant by that is not that we stepped back into it, we started to create the opening so that flowing started to occur. Now, part of that changed our operating system to the point where certain necessities that were established 10,000 years ago when the inverted stuff was put into play, that we removed some of the confines or some of the things that became part of a requirement. And one of them was to experience polarity and to operate within polarity and to only learn through polarity. In fact, to create any shifting and changing, it was polarity required. And even the whole analogy of, or the statement that was said, no pain, no gain, was kind of all of that. And the fact that that was utilized for pretty close to 10,000 years, that was taken out of the equation. The whole thing about having karma. And karma is really misunderstood, and I will talk about it in one of the episodes that will be coming up about really understanding what that is all about. Some of it was already covered within the series, Advancing Consciousness series, which you can check out on YouTube and also on the Facebook group. Now, with all of that taking place at this point in time, we eliminated the capacities to utilize what we call karma, which karma was basically a balancing mechanism that the souls and the human entity and the body was using. So that meant that in one way or another, if you played one particular role that was polarized on one side, meaning that you played a negative role, low frequency state of being, then in another incarnation, you would play a high frequency role, but then maybe be subject to a lower frequency and vice versa. What that established was a balance point so that you get to play both polarities along the way. Now, were each incarnation back to back, you play one to the other. Like a lot of people believe that you can gain negative karma and positive karma. Well, basically, if you play the negative role, then you would like to experience the recipient of the negative role while you're trying to hold on to a higher vibrational role. So all of us have played at some point or another, either on this dimension or other dimensions, or on this planet or on other planets and other playgrounds that exist. We've played that polarity where we've taken on different roles, because this is instrumental to understand that these are just roles. As source, there was no good or bad or right or wrong or anything of that nature. That was kind of what was plugged in as a concept in that inverted matrix, inverted 3D, 2D type of thing. Of course, now we've shifted into the organic 3D. But just to say so the need for polarity for progress was removed. The need for maintaining what we call the karma was removed. We also removed the boundaries of keeping our vibration very low, so we had much more flexibility and we could actually access higher dimensional consciousness that were more organic. At the same time, we kind of established a little bit of stronger connection with our organic matrix. The other part that got removed from the equation in that convergence in 87, basically end of 86 going into 87, was the fact of the self-destruct code, which was basically the implanted satanic code, or what we call Satan, which was a code where you actually can and could use that code to self-destruct. That means destroy your environment, your reality, your playmates, and yourself. And you've seen this many times over when people would be able to play into the war games and hurting one another and so forth. And that was kind of the destruct code. But that destruct code was also embedded where you experience intensified separation. And what did that mean? That meant that you do not recognize that everybody that was on the playground with you was another aspect of you, and that you're there to play with each other. Or even the fact that you were playing roles with each other, but seeing it much more realistic, and that, you had to be in the fight and flight. The other thing is some of the programming around fight and flight was also opened up so that we did not need to use that. Now, that didn't mean that all of that got removed. It got removed to the degree of having it kind of mandated, in a sense, if you want to call it that, or locked in to optional. Now, of course, the optionality was available for us to tweak away from it, and that's what really occurred. So at the soul level, the soul that coming from one dimension to another automatically came with no karma, no need for polarity. And when I said no need for polarity, it was not a necessity, but it didn't mean it did not use it, because it would use it when appropriate. And what defined appropriateness for that use was really if it needed to kick your butt or make an enforced movement where you were holding back in a way, because you got to play the game, you got lost in the game of life, which, even though it was a reverse version of what life was, that in some way and somehow it needed to use that. The same thing with the human entity. The human entity was not concerned about balancing either, because at this point in time, first of all, it didn't need the polarity, it didn't need any of that stuff, and it really wanted to use it just bit by bit to kind of shift away from it. And that's really what took place with the adjustments that came in. And that was in 87. Now, it carried out with an incremental increase of the Schumann energy on the planet. The brilliance, the spectrum of light coming from the sun started to increase. We started receiving more and more pulse input from the galaxy. We started to have more attention paid to the planet by other brother sister souls that were in ships from different dimensions, different planets, and so forth, to kind of make sure that things would stay status quo, because we had still a risk of self-destruction through nuclear and war. So they made sure that we did not push it to the max without eliminating the free will, but looking over the free will of the whole collective to make sure that we would not self-destruct the planet. And when I say self-destruct the planet, reset the planet in a sense where all the sentient beings would be put out of equation, including ourselves. So they did intervene, allowing only a small portion of interactions to take place, but they intervened enough so that we would not, in one way or another, use any nuclear self-destruction, which was launched several times in the 90s, in the 2000s, and a few other times after that. There were a lot of close calls. So very minimal was allowed, and the rest of it was involved where they would disconnect or disarm the capacities for us to do that. And that was just kind of our safeguard, in a sense, while we were getting a better grasp of how we play the game through these changes that we were going through. So that was the first phase from 87 to 2012, right to about the end of 2012. And then we're looking at the solstice of the 21st of December going into in 2013. That's when we had phase 2 kick in. So now things expedited. There was a lot of back end changes that were enacted that created a lot of changes and a high stimulation of purging and clearing old programmed belief systems, perceptions, and so forth, and also older energies that were locked into our operating system. All took place at that time. Now, with that in place, we started to have the planetary frequency just increasing even further in larger increments. We also started to get more reactivation, more changes in the grid lines, and more upgrading with Gaia, the planet itself, and also the energies that we started to play. Now, of course, that stimulated polarity even further because there was a resistance that was taking place. But at the same time, more and more people had the opportunity to become more aware or access more of that knowing awareness within themselves. So that was another stage of progress. Now, from 2013, the beginning of 2013, all the way to the end of 2017 was the initial stage 2. However, because of the progress and because of what was going on, it played out that it would have been more beneficial to kind of give it a little bit more time, because there was a powerful request from a lot of souls and human entities and bodies saying, hey, we're not having enough time to integrate the different stages. Can we extend it? So it was extended till pretty well the end of 2019. So it did get extended a couple of years. So basically, to aid even further, of course, the inverted matrix got turned off, and then the moon's transmission got turned off, and we had the 2 platforms of the organic 3D and 5D were implemented and activated, and we had the option to shift into that in August of 2019, and or basically July going into to August at that point in time. So that was done, but at the same time, the extended to the end of 2019. After the solstice, we entered basically 2020, and that was phase 3, which we are in right now. As you've noticed, a lot of changes occurred. Now, there's a lot of staging, a lot of simulations and so forth that were put into place to really kind of check to see how far we can go with all of this. Now, if you notice in 2020, what's going on? Things have expedited. Everything has been so intensified on so many levels to push us even further. Each and every pulse has been stronger. Each and every pulse has been almost every other day. There's been so many downloads and codes and so forth, reactivation, stimulations and so forth, all taking place. So it became very exciting, and we're in the midst of that excitement. And of course, there's further changes going on as we move forward. And here we are, a couple of more months and barely a week left, or even less than that, but left going into what we consider the pretty strong waves that we're going in, and then another solstice that will activate another, not another stage or anything of that nature, but another stimulation required for us to be able to move through this a lot quicker. And also to kind of set the stage to move forward. So that's going to be like a 4 to 5 months. So it could end up until the end of March with the various things coming in. And then at the end of March, we're basically going to have another energetic wave that will come through that will actually create more of a unification and also minimize the polarity component, so that the polarity will not have the same grip that it has on us. Now, as all of this has been playing out, there are many souls, and you may be one of them right now listening to this at this point in time, amongst the many, many, that are experiencing these shifts, experiencing a lot of work that you've been doing on yourself and clearing out and getting yourself prepared, but you're also bringing in more of these energies of consciousness and awareness into your reality because you are preparing to play a very powerful role. Now, some of you have already started the role for some time, and all of us to some degree or another has been playing the role, even if it hasn't been what we call physically active. Because in essence, we've been doing a lot of work on the back end through your dream state and so forth, but a lot of it is because of the harnessing of the energies that we have and the expansion of awareness, which is actually changing the human physical element that is now transmitted throughout all the different human representations of this physical form, but is also creating a shifting in the collective. So all of that is taking place right now. And there are people that have been preparing and so forth. Now, the ones that are choosing not to upgrade have made the choice for that, and they are going to hold on to the polarity for as long as it's necessary to assist us to move forward, the ones that need to move forward. So they're kind of using, kind of creating a springboard effect in a sense. But at the same time, the ones that have chosen to participate, which we call the active souls and the active physical representation, they're either expanding, learning, growing from it, and also doing part of the encodement by just experiencing and changing themselves. Now, with all of this taking place, there is still a tremendous amount of change happening with the physical form, what's happening with all of the stuff that's going on right now. So we have chosen to take such an active role to be part of all of this. And many of the souls are here. And why here now? Because the fact that you wanted to participate, you wanted to experience something that has never been experienced before on any planet. Because there's never been a planet that has had such a major, powerful polarization and then transformation in such a short period of time with our specific layout, makeup, and so forth. And I won't get into too much of the details of all that makeup stuff because we'll do that in another episode. But at the same time, this is a very exciting time, and many of us wanted to be part of the excitement. Now, of course, at the same time, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is too much. I want this thing to change." Well, I can understand that, and I can appreciate it, and I felt the same thing myself for the amount of years that I've been on the planet. However, at the same time, I'm also seeing the excitement and all of these changes and love to see how all this is unfolding while we're doing it all together, because this is kind of a thing that we're doing together. It's not outside of ourselves, and it's not isolated. We're not depending on anything at this point in time as a savior or someone to come and fix things or something of that nature. No, it's about us becoming empowered, and that's what we're doing. And then through that empowerment, we reshape not only our personal life and the lives of all the people that we're connected, but also the collective and the planet itself. So even all the interactions and exchanges that are taking place with all the different powerful souls that are working with us, that are non-form or are in forms that are not from this planet per se, but have a connection to us at this point in time, they are all working with us at this point. But they're not interfering because they realize fully and completely that it's up to us to go through this whole process, because that's the only way we can redesign it, because we are the ones in the body. We're the ones that are utilizing the innate consciousness of the body, the human entity, and the soul to be able to really create this powerful transformation, and then a retooling, basically a redesigning. That's why we call it transformation. We're transforming, but we're upgrading the human experience. We're upgrading the planetary playground we call the Earth. The Earth is very powerful, and it's been re-encoded again just to be able to take some huge leaps. So before, when it was redesigned, we were supposed to go from organic 3D, which we started off the first 5,000 years with, about ready to go into organic 4D before the introduction of all this inverted stuff that was put in 10,000 years ago. And then we got kind of caught up in that inverted stuff. Now, it was interesting and exciting to come back and forth from those realms, and reincarnating and taking on different forms through those 10,000 years where everything was backwards and everything was intense. And we're still playing that out because that's kind of unraveling at the moment. So, with us coming and going now was like super exciting, because if you really look at it, if you look back in the last 60 so years, you're going to notice that 60 or so years ago, we only had 2 billion people on the planet, and now we're at 7.7 billion. And you say, well, what happened here? Yeah, lots of baby making and stuff like that. Well, it can look like that on the surface, but really it was a very interesting time that many, many, many more souls were kind of interested with planet Earth, but we're not so interested. But then realizing that all of these changes were coming into place and that it was going to be a really extreme ride and the potentialities here were just amazing, then there was a huge calling for many, many, many souls to reincarnate. And of course, a Gaia to represent many versions, and also the human entity to kind of fragment some more and to take on further physical representation of itself. So there was this explosion, of course, of going, basically 4x the population, because many more wanted to come and play here. Now, of course, we realize that, there's 63% are just extras at this point in time. However, That is aiding all the active role players. But at the same time, those extras may not have an individualized signature soul, but they're all connected to collective souls that are navigating many, many, many physicalities. And the same thing with the human entities. But each one are an expression of Gaia anyways, and have the innate consciousness of Gaia. So all of it is a beautiful dance and mix. So the focal point of planet Earth, it's like it was the end place to be. And this is why we had so many here. So why are you here? You wanted to participate. You either wanted to catch the ride and go through the powerful transformations and just experience it and have the option to leave at any time you wish, or you came here because of the fact that you wanted to be partaking about the transforming and going through the different stages of it. And others have come here because you wanted to be one of the forerunners to help the complete redesigning. And this is why you're here. And that's why you're here now. Now is because of this excitement, and now is because there's so much more requirement, in a sense, for more advanced souls to come here to share, to really help upgrade this playground and this holographic projection. Now, the other thing is that we are becoming more multidimensional in the physical representation, which will upgrade the human entity, because the human entity has been localized only for planet Earth, and match more in harmony with the souls, which are, multidimensional anyways. And what do I mean by that? Because if you look at the bodies makeup have 12 DNA. That's pretty well across the board. There's only a very few that have as low as 9, and some have as high as 14. Now, what does each of these DNAs represent? Each of these DNAs represent a different species that we have an intimate connection with, and that represents their experience in form or holographic projection. For example, one of them would be a Syrian and a Pleiadian, and I will talk about it. I have talked about it in the series, that Advancing Consciousness series. If you want to check it out, I do talk about the makeup of all the different species that make up the human. So each of these DNAs are transmitter receivers. They actually have the genetic encodements, and they also have the operating system of those particular contributor species. When these bodies were made, of course, each of those species were kind of implemented and creating a hybrid. So we're, a hybrid, but in that hybrid actually created a clear one. Now, there is another hybrid, which is basically the 12 made up, and also one that is coming from one particular race, which is a hybrid particular race, which they call Draconians, and they call Anunnakis and whatever else. But they were hybrids themselves, because they're both hybrids from the reptilian race, but the reptilian race is pretty advanced, and they're the Draconians and the Anunnakis will kind of playing an unconscious role, or at least chose to play that and take on what we refer to as a Luciferian operating system. Now, they were part and parcel of what the changes happened 10,000 years ago, and that's what's the unraveling right now. So with all of that taking place, those DNAs are being reactivated, and they're reactivated in stages, and that more and more of that's coming online. And the more it comes online, more we are receiving codes, frequency, consciousness, and also energetic pulses from those species that have continued to evolve. Now, we have evolved very slowly as the human. So we are quite behind. Now, either we're in the playground of organic 3D or organic 5D at this point in time, which may be our home resident frequency. But at the same time, what's really taking place, what we have to understand is that what we're experiencing right now, we have the flexibility, if you're in organic 3D, to be able to have bits and pieces of experience of organic 5D. If you're in 5D, you get to play in organic 3D. But at the same time, both organic 3D and organic 5D are still in the process of purging their inverted 3D and 2D state, and inverting all the reversing and clearing out all the programs and versions of themselves that were created in the inverted matrix, inverted 3D and 2D state of being, which was very polarized, very separate, and and operating in limited consciousness accessibility. because the inverted stuff that came in was basically the reason it was inverted was it actually was about devolving instead of evolving, and that's why we went from organic 3D to what we call inverted 3D, and then gone in some cases a chunk of the population went into 2D where you're completely unconscious. Inverted 3D, everything worked backwards. Now, if you look at every system on the planet, from governmental to military to monetary to health to education, through all the different constructs and governments and whatever else that's going on, and a lot of the systems, even in corporations, businesses, and so forth, all were designed, all reinforced under the operating system of the inverted matrix through people operating in the inverted 3D and 2D state of being and being completely disconnected with themselves. So part of the process that we're going through is also dismantling that part, and that's just crumbling on its own because we are shifting our energy, we're accessing more consciousness so that those structures are not being supported. Now, of course, we're having a tremendous amount of streaming of fear, survival, and so forth, even with the political games and everything else that's going on right now. There's a purpose behind that because it's really an opportunity for us to really grow from it and to expand from it rather than get lost in it, even though at times we do get lost in it. And that getting lost is actually very good because not that we're there to be there for any long period of time, but it actually helps us to discover some of our operating system and versions of ourselves that we can be aggressive, or in this case, progressive, to deprogram within ourselves. So when we're looking at why is our planet in this state and why now, well, it got covered in my description there for the fact that we have chosen to go through these stages. Now, the one thing we have to understand, we have free will, and in the free will playground, and the fact that we're sovereign beings, and the fact that, we can navigate how much progress is made to a certain degree, even though it was full degree at one point, yes and no, because there was also opposing operating systems that were kind of creating some interesting experiences. But taking that into consideration at this point, as we're looking at all of that, we come to the understanding that right now we are here because everything that's playing out, everything that's being experienced, not only physically, personally, emotionally within ourselves, what's happening to the different dynamics that we're connected to, lineages, family, partnerships, and so forth, and what is playing out on all the different systems that are in place, and what's also happening on the planet overall, even with the weather and whatever else, is all part and parcel of assisting this transformation. So Gaia has been a big what do you call it, like a magnetic pull that held a lot of polarized energy, which is purging out. So it does create some of the intensities which are experienced on the planet sometimes as a reaction. Now, some of it is manipulated. It's still part and parcel of what we're going through. And, a lot of the climate stuff that's going on, or, what looks like violent reaction of Gaia is not all Gaia. Gaia does not act out in violence. It actually contributes to support us in one way or another to kind of stimulate things for us to create a shift within ourselves. But in saying all of this and going through all of this whole process that we're talking about at this point in time, these changes that are occurring at the moment are all part of what agreements that we have made to take that course. And even stuff that is being what you call human, using alien technology like the satellites and so forth to stimulate certain weather patterns and reactions on the planet, is still playing in parcel of whatever is playing out on the planet to assist us to go through this transformation. So planet Earth, the playground itself, with our help, is going through a powerful transformation. We are physically going through a powerful transformation. Our body operating system is transforming. Our mind's operation is transforming. Uh, our innate consciousness of the body is becoming much more conscious, much more aware, much more of a powerful contributor, including the human entity, which has been shedding a tremendous amount of the old programs and old operating systems and old memories and so forth. And the same thing with the soul. It's going, it didn't matter where it came from or whatever else. It's participating, it's working all together, but it's not, getting involved in all the other stuff that was originally being involved in before. So all of this right now, we are here where we are because it's time for our planet within our solar system to go through this upgrade. And the people that are here right now and all the sentient beings that are here right now are all playing a role and part of this. Regardless what role you play, regardless of what is taking place, it is actually supporting what we have collectively agreed to experience and to move forward with. And that's the beauty of all this is going on. And this is why we're here and why now. We are here personally because you wanted to be part of this. Keep in mind, you always have the freedom to leave at any time, and you can leave in any option, any way. We have in our bodies tremendous amount of codes that are contrary or contradicting or negating. That's a better word for it. Negating any of what can be utilized as compromise and demise, or turning yourself off the representation of this holographic expression on planet Earth. So that means you can get sick, you can die, you can do all types of things based on you. So we have those codes that will actually not allow it to take place any which way. But we also have tremendous amount of codes that we have taken on that were streamed through the game of life that we played here, where, there's a lot of opportunities to get ill, to have incidents and so forth. It's up to us as free agents that we are to basically unplug ourselves anytime we choose. It's not something that is mandated or anything of that nature. We may have guides and angelic realms that may remind us, hey, you were supposed to remind me when it was time, or the fact that, or give you the option to look at it and say, okay, do you want to continue down this path or not? Or do you want to exchange? Because there's a lot of exchanging going on, exchanges of souls, exchanges of human entities and so forth within these bodies and so forth. And so even as much as at one point, we're looking at certain souls that are here that only come for part of the ride, if the physicality human entity is really on for it or has swapped and wanted to continue, then other souls will drop in. There's lots of souls that want to be here anyways to catch this part of the ride, because this is quite unique. And it's done in a short period of time, and it's stuff that's never been experienced before. And that's why it's so appealing to be on planet Earth. So with this in mind, you're here because you wanted to be here. You wanted to be part of it as the contributor, as the experiencer, and then some contribution, or just to come for the experience itself, and then play a particular role, even though the role would not involve evolution or evolving, but the role that you would play would actually stimulate others to evolve. So that's that. And the planet being where it is, it's because it's part of the changes that are going. And why now? Because now it's time to be back online. So we have been brought back online. Like I said, the invert matrix has been removed. The organic matrix is back online. It was always online. We just didn't have as much access to it. Our DNAs are being reactivated in stages at this point in time. So more influence will come in, more consciousness will come in. We're going to have less and less fear, less and less limitations, because the program no longer. The artificial intelligence we call the ego, that's also shifting within ourselves. It's becoming more and more obsolete or outside of the operating system, that we don't have that requirement anymore, because we never had the requirement of that, but it was an implanted requirement so that we would be able to play the inverted inverted matrix and inverted 3D state of experience, because without it, you can't. Or at least it's very difficult, because the thing is, there's enough consciousness bleeding in that you would have been very difficult to stay in a negative, what do you call it, disconnected state when all of that was taking place. So, I mean, I will talk a little bit more of the ego and stuff like that in further episodes, but I think that's what we're going to wrap it up. Why you're here, why we are here in this particular operating changes that are playing out on the planet, and why now. So, until the next one, go and enjoy, spend the time to integrate with the information shared, and do what you came here to do. Be the you that you came here to be, and that's what you've always wanted to do in the first place. The other thing is, I thank you for being part of all of this, and we will have further episodes, one per day, and they will be released accordingly. So enjoy each of the upcoming episodes. We'll continue to explore more and more layers of ourselves and what is going on, and our roles, and our true, genuine aspects of ourselves, and so forth. In the description below, if you're on Facebook, or if you're on YouTube, or if you're on any of the podcast audio versions at this point, we do have access for you to join the newsletter, and that gives you updates of different things that are coming up at the same time, and let you know of any workshops or anything that comes on. We also have a link for all the different workshops that are available that you can get in video and audio recordings of, and they're fairly inexpensive for the amount of content and time that you get for it. We also have, if all of this work resonates for you and you'd like to support us in the work that we are doing, so we can concentrate more and more time to put these podcasts together, and also the Advancing Consciousness series, which are actual kind of teaching courses, or if you want to call it that. All of this is made free, and we want to maintain it to continue free, but we require your support because we're still playing in the monetary system. And I will talk about the monetary system in one of the later episodes as we go along, and how we are on the transition from all of that at this point. So until next time, have a blast.